The average household with a $6,000 monthly income cannot tell you where $400 of it went last month. Not because they were reckless, because it never registered as spending. It left in fragments too small to notice and too frequent to track. Picture two people with identical salaries. Same job title, same city, same take-home pay. The first checks their account and sees a number that never quite makes sense. Money arrives, money disappears, and the gap between what they earned and what they can explain keeps widening every year. The second checks their account, and the number matches their expectations almost exactly. Not because they earn more, not because they deprive themselves of anything meaningful, because they know precisely where every dollar goes, including the dollars too small to normally track. The difference between these two people is never one big decision. Nobody accidentally spends $8,000 in a single afternoon. What actually happens is quieter and far more dangerous. It happens in amounts so small that noticing them feels almost neurotic. $1.50 here, $4 there. None of it registers as spending because none of it required a real decision. A $4 app subscription renewed automatically in March. A $9 delivery fee attached to a grocery order in April. A $14 late fee on a bill that was never actually late, just misread. None of these moments felt like decisions. That is exactly why they're the most expensive decisions most people make. This video is not about the big, obvious mistakes. Not the boat nobody needed. Not the car payment that swallows a quarter of someone's paycheck. Those mistakes are visible, and visible mistakes get corrected eventually because they are embarrassing enough to notice. This video is about the leaks, the ones too small to trigger shame, too routine to trigger scrutiny, and too invisible to ever make it onto a budget spreadsheet. These leaks do more long-term damage than most large purchases combined because nobody ever stops them. Here are the small money leaks that are quietly keeping people poor, and the exact behavior that seals each one. Leak 1. Subscription creep. The average American now pays for 12 separate subscriptions, according to consumer spending research from C+R Research. Most people, when asked to list their subscriptions from memory, name 4 or 5. The rest have gone invisible. A streaming service nobody watches. A meal kit paused 3 months ago that quietly reactivated. A fitness app purchased during a January motivation spike, still charging in November. A cloud storage plan upgraded 2 years ago for a project that finished within weeks. Individually, these charges look harmless. $6 here, $11 there. Combined, the average household spends over $900 annually on subscriptions they have forgotten they own. The reason subscriptions succeed at hiding is structural, not accidental. Companies design the cancellation process to require more effort than the sign-up process. Sign-up takes one click. Cancellation often requires locating a settings menu, confirming an email, sometimes calling a phone number during business hours. That asymmetry is not an oversight. It is the entire business model. Every day a subscription survives past its usefulness is a day of pure profit for the company and pure loss for the household paying it. Invested instead at 8% for 20 years, that $900 a year becomes over $44,000. The fix is not complicated. It requires an actual bank statement, not a guess. Scan line by line once per quarter. Every charge gets one question. Did I use this in the last 30 days? If the answer is no, it gets canceled that day, not next week, because next week is exactly how these charges survive another year. Leak 2, the convenience tax. Convenience has a price, and that price compounds. A grocery delivery fee of $6 plus a service fee of $4 plus a tip of $5 turns a $60 grocery order into $75. That is a 25% markup for not walking into a store. Do this twice a week, and the convenience tax alone costs roughly $1,500 a year. Ride shares carry the same tax. A $12 ride that would have been a $3 train fare is not really a $12 expense. It is a $9 convenience fee for wearing a transportation costume. Food delivery apps carry an even steeper version. A restaurant meal priced at $15 on the menu frequently appears as $19 or $20 on the app itself. Before delivery fees, before service fees, before the tip prompt appears. The menu price and the app price are rarely the same number, and almost nobody checks. None of this means convenience is always wrong. Convenience genuinely matters during a demanding week, a sick day, a legitimate time crunch. The problem is not convenience itself. The problem is convenience becoming the automatic setting rather than the occasional exception. The rule that actually works before tapping confirm on any delivery or ride app asks what this costs compared to the manual version, and whether the time save is actually worth that gap today, or whether it is simply the path of least resistance dressed up as a busy schedule. Leak 3. Minimum payment thinking. Credit card minimum payments are engineered to feel responsible while being financially catastrophic. A $5,000 balance at 24% interest, paid at the minimum, takes over 15 years to clear and costs more than $7,000 in interest alone. That is $7,000 for the privilege of not paying attention. The math behind minimum payments is deliberately unintuitive. A minimum payment is calculated as a small percentage of the balance, which means as the balance slowly drops, the required payment drops too. The debt shrinks just slowly enough to feel like progress is being made, while interest continues accumulating on whatever remains. This is not a coincidence of how credit works. It is the specific outcome the payment formula was built to produce. The minimum payment is not a strategy. It is a trap disguised as one, built to keep a balance alive as long as legally possible. The households that escape this leak treat any revolving balance as an emergency, not a normal state. They pay far above the minimum. They stop new charges on that card entirely until it is cleared, and they treat the interest rate itself as the real emergency, not the total balance, because a high balance at zero interest is a manageable problem, while a small balance at 24% is a problem that grows on its own. Leak 4. The round number tip trap. Not all tipping generosity is created equal. Rounding up on genuine service, a haircut, a meal, a delivery driver in bad weather, reflects real value received. But tipping culture has expanded into checkout screens for self-serve counters, pre-tip prompts on pickup orders, and default 20% suggestions on transactions with no service rendered at all. Someone paying an unconsidered $3 to $5 extra on 10 transactions a week loses over $2,000 a year to prompts designed by payment processors, not by generosity. The fix is not to stop tipping. It is to tip with intention rather than reflex, based on actual service, not a screen nudging for a number before a card is even swiped. Leak 5. The almost expired panic buy. Grocery stores are built around urgency. Limited time offers, expiring coupons, buy 2 get 1 deals on items nobody was planning to buy at all. The average household wastes 25% of the groceries they purchase, according to USDA estimates, much of it driven by deal chasing rather than actual meal planning. A 3 for $10 yogurt deal that results in 1 yogurt eaten and 2 thrown away is not a discount. It is a 70% loss disguised as a bargain. The households that avoid this leak shop from a list built around meals they have already decided to cook, not around whatever is discounted that day. Deals only save money on items that were already needed. Leak 6. Phantom insurance overlap. Extended warranties. Rental car insurance already covered by a credit card. Phone insurance duplicating a homeowner's policy. Flight insurance for a trip already protected by a card's travel benefits. Insurance sold at the point of purchase preys on a single emotion, the fear of a rare bad outcome, at the exact moment someone is least equipped to evaluate probability. Most of these products carry payout rates under 20% of premiums collected, meaning the insurer keeps the overwhelming majority of what is paid in. A household carrying 3 or 4 of these redundant policies can lose $500 to $800 a year insuring things that are already insured elsewhere. The fix is a once-a-year audit. Every insurance-like charge gets checked against existing coverage before renewal, not after. Leak 7. The ATM and overdraft bleed. Out-of-network ATM fees average close to $5 per withdrawal when both the bank and the machine charge separately. Overdraft fees average $35 per incident, and the average American pays these multiple times a year, frequently for transactions under $20. A single overdraft coffee purchase can end up costing more than the coffee shop itself charges in a month. These fees exist because checking accounts are built with almost no buffer by default. The fix? A small linked overdraft buffer or low balance alert set at a threshold that gives several days of warning, not the day funds actually run out. Leak 8. Buy now and pay later normalization. Splitting a $40 purchase into 4 payments of $10 feels harmless, almost responsible. But stacking 5 or 6 of these plans simultaneously, which a growing share of users now do, creates a shadow debt load that never appears on a single statement. Missed payments carry fees just like a credit card, and the fragmented nature of these plans makes total exposure nearly invisible until it is already a problem. The households avoiding this leak apply one rule without exception. If a purchase requires splitting into 4 payments to feel affordable, it was not affordable in the first place. Leak 9. The loyalty program Mirage. Points, miles, and cashback programs are marketed as free money, but they are frequently used to justify spending that would not otherwise happen. Buying an extra $40 of groceries to hit a bonus points threshold, or choosing a more expensive flight because of miles earned, routinely costs more than the reward is worth. Real value from these programs only exists when the underlying purchase was already planned. The households who benefit from loyalty programs are the ones who never let the reward change the purchase decision, treating points as a small bonus on spending that was happening regardless, rather than a reason to spend more than intended. The same Mirage appears in credit card sign-up bonuses. A card offering $500 in bonus value after spending $4,000 in 3 months sounds like easy money, and for someone who is already going to spend that amount, it genuinely is. For someone who stretches their normal spending to reach the threshold, buying things earlier than needed or spending on categories they would otherwise have avoided, the bonus becomes an expensive illusion. The reward only pays off when the spending is already going to happen. Otherwise, the household is paying full price to chase a discount on money it did not need to spend in the first place. Leak 10. The never-ending small upgrade. A slightly larger drink size for 70 cents more. A slightly better seat for $8 more. A slightly faster shipping option for $5 more. None of these feel like real spending decisions because each one is trivially small in isolation. But someone making 10 of these micro upgrades a week is spending an extra $30 to $50 weekly, over $2,000 a year, on marginal improvements they would never have sought out actively. The base option was already sufficient. The fix: default to the base option every time, and only upgrade when there is a specific, named reason, not simply because the option was presented. Leak 11. Autopay price creep. Autopay exists to remove friction from bill payment, and for the actual bills, mortgages, utilities, insurance premiums, that friction removal is genuinely useful. The leak appears when autopay is applied to services with variable, quietly rising prices. A streaming bundle that started at $8 a month climbs to $11, then $14, then $17 over 3 years. And because the charge is automatic, nobody ever reevaluates whether the service is still worth the new price. The household is not agreeing to $17 a month. They agreed to $8 a month once, years ago, and Autopay has been quietly renewing that decision at an increasingly different price ever since. A household with 6 or 7 Autopay services experiencing typical annual price increases can be paying 25 to 40% more today than when they signed up, without ever making a single new decision to justify the increase. The fix is not disabling Autopay entirely. It is reviewing every recurring charge against its original price once a year, and treating any increase as a fresh decision rather than an assumed renewal. Leak 12. The notification-driven purchase. Retail apps now send an average of several push notifications weekly, each timed around behavioral data, payday schedules, past browsing history, and hours when attention is lowest and impulse is highest. A flash sale notification arriving at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday is not random. It is scheduled because 9 p.m. is when willpower is measurably lower than it is at 9 a.m. Someone who disables promotional notifications entirely removes dozens of manufactured buying moments a month, moments that would never have existed without a phone actively prompting them. This single change, muting retail notifications completely, has been shown in consumer behavior studies to reduce impulse purchases by a meaningful double-digit percentage, simply by removing the trigger before it can happen. Add these leaks together, and the number is not small. Subscription creeps near $900. Convenience tax is nearly $1,500. Minimum payment interest into the thousands depending on balance. Tip inflation over $2,000. Panic buys waste near $1,000. Insurance overlaps up to $800. Overdraft bleeds several hundred. Buy now, pay later fees variable but real. Loyalty Mirage spending in the hundreds. Micro upgrades over $2,000. Autopay prices creep adding several hundred more. Notification-driven purchases adding several hundred on top of that. Combined, a household leaking through even half of these categories is losing somewhere between $6,000 and $10,000 a year, money that never once felt like a decision. Invested at 8% annually over 25 years, $8,000 a year becomes roughly $630,000. Not from a raise, not from a side hustle, not from cutting anything that actually mattered, from closing gaps that were never noticed in the first place. This is the part nobody wants to hear, because it removes the excuse of low income as the primary obstacle. These leaks exist at every income level. A household earning $200,000 a year with unchecked subscription creep, convenience spending, and micro upgrades can leak just as much as a household earning $60,000, sometimes more, because higher income raises the threshold at which spending starts to feel uncomfortable. A $12 convenience fee feels irrelevant to someone earning six figures in a way it never would to someone counting every dollar. That feeling of irrelevance is precisely what allows the leak to continue undetected for years. The leak does not care what the paycheck says. It only cares whether anyone is watching. There is a version of this story that plays out in nearly identical form across every income bracket. Someone earns more, and for a brief period the extra money genuinely accumulates. Then slowly, spending expands to match the new number, not through one deliberate upgrade but through a dozen tiny ones that each felt individually justified. A slightly better apartment, a slightly nicer car, a slightly more expensive daily coffee. None of these decisions alone explain where the raise went. Together they explain all of it. The households that eventually build real financial margin are rarely the ones who found one dramatic fix. They are not the households who discovered a secret investment or a single life-changing habit. They are the ones who ran the same quarterly audit for years, without exception, long after it stopped feeling urgent or interesting. Bank statement, subscription by subscription, insurance policy by insurance policy, asking the same unglamorous question every time. Did this charge require a decision, or did it simply happen? Anything that simply happened gets stopped, canceled, or renegotiated, regardless of how small the amount looks on paper. None of this requires more income. It requires attention redirected toward the transactions too small to previously deserve any. The gap between people who build wealth and people who do not is rarely one giant mistake. It is 100 small ones, repeated monthly for years, without anyone ever adding them up. The number always looks harmless in isolation. It only becomes visible once someone finally does the arithmetic. Do that arithmetic once. Sit down with a real statement, not a memory of one, and find every leak on this list currently draining your own account. Most people will find at least 4. Some will find all 11. None of them require a dramatic lifestyle change to close. They require noticing and then a decision that was never made the first time around. Add them up once, then close them, one leak at a time. The money was never the hard part. The notice was.